guys. Well, today I want to, I was telling Lindsay about this. I want to kind of talk about a subject that's not easy to talk about, but it's something that's been heavily on my mind as we kind of just pause 1 second from the Gospel of Luke, because we have such a long way to go in chapter 6, and so I want to make sure that we're able to kind of give ourselves a break and be able to kind of walk through what we're going to walk through. But I think today I want to talk about something that I would love it that it can kind of be a discussion, if you will, that we can have. And I know we got the people listening up on Facebook, you know, and so if you did have a discussing point, you would just have to speak up. But I want you guys to really follow along with what I'm going to be talking about on today. And this is, I know Kevin and Raymond, they'll know I'm always talking about this with them, but I want to kind of open it up today as a discussion point and show you how it relates to a bigger context in the world, and it has to do with the power of narratives. And so I kind of want to talk about it on today, because we're living in a world that is full of narratives. It's very important that we understand this. So like I said, I want you guys to kind of follow along. I don't want this to be a lecture, because if I make it a lecture, you're not going to get what I'm saying. The power of communication is important. Okay? How we come to know information is dependent upon how it's communicated to us. Y'all understand that? There's numerous ways that God could have communicated to us. You know, he could have just shown up in an illustration in the sky. He could have just, you know, did some type of dazzling display. He could have wrote a term paper. I mean, he could have done it in a whole lot of different ways. But what we find out is that one of the most powerful ways of communication is through the power of narratives. And I hope you're able to stick with me today, because this isn't some type of psychology that I'm trying to play on you. We all talk and communicate through narratives. And when you think about the word narrative, you know, you can take it away from its literary context, because it's a literary term. Y'all know what literary is, literature. It's a literary term. A better way for us to know it is stories. We talk in stories. When we tell somebody about something that has happened to us, we tend to tell it in some type of sequential order. I mean, imagine if I come and tell you about something that happened to me when I was 15 and it's just all abstract and loose. What will Raymond probably say? What are you talking about, man? So we tend to communicate in forms of narratives. Okay? And so narratives are the most important aspect of communication, because they shape and interpret what is being communicated. If I want you to know something, or if I want you to believe something, or if I want you to agree with something, how am I going to get that information to you? I can either just tell it, or I can put it in the form of a narrative, and I'm going to explain why the narrative is important. And that narrative, depending on how it's formulated, will cause you to believe something. See, the fallacy of all of us is we think we just believe. I guarantee you, most people, it's a term called autonomy. Anybody know what autonomy means? What does it mean?
You have the authority to make that decision on something.
Yeah. You have the authority independent
of anything.
There you go. That's what the word autonomy means. I have, when you hear people say we are autonomous beings, they're saying that we are beings that have the authority to do what we want to do independent of any outside influences that press upon us. And most people tend to think that when they believe something or think something, it's them thinking it. You tend to think that nothing has influenced you in the way you think, in what you believe. It's just not true. It's just not true. Everything that you believe comes in the form of someone or some information influencing you to believe it. And depending upon who you hear the information from, whether you deem that individual credible, or you deem them trustworthy, or you deem them, watch this word, an expert, you're going to just carte blanche. Y'all know what the word carte blanche means? Just, hey, face value, you just gonna believe it. And to prove it, you know that when, you know, if you heard something from some expert or somebody, you say, well, so-and-so said that. As if that makes it right. I mean, think about the world we're living in today. It doesn't matter whether it's a politician on the Democratic side or the Republican side. Every time they open their mouth, they're talking to you like they're speaking exact truth.
Right.
And that could be very confusing in our world because you won't know who to believe. Think about how the news media reports it. Think that their major news outlets, whether it be ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, CNN, when they make the report, they make it like this is the truth of what I'm saying. You can trust me, the trusted source. And it could be very confusing because you'll be like, well, I heard on Fox they said this, but on CNN they saying this. Who's this? And what I'm trying to, I hope to convey through this is that's done on purpose, but I want to kind of walk through it. So narratives become truths that we come to believe. Narratives become truths that we come to believe. They become ideas that we hold to be true, and ultimately they come to shape and define our reality. A narrative. Inside a narrative, there's something that I want to convey. And if I encapsulate it in a narrative, I can get you to believe it. And I'm going to tell you why, but just kind of walk with me here. Is everybody with me so far? Yes. Let me know. Y'all stick with me. If I want to get you to believe, if I got the right narrative, I promise you I can get you to believe it. You know, we do that every year with the Falcons. They give us a narrative, what, man? The team is different. Man, let me mess with the Cowboys over here. Every year, the Cowboys about to go to the Super Bowl. This is their year. Dak gonna do it. You see, that's a narrative. Are y'all, that's a narrative. I don't want you to think that's just information. That is a narrative. And in it, just from a natural, stupid sense with sports, if that narrative is pushed out there, what do you inevitably believe every year concerning your team? Hey man, this could be the year. You know, good with this ain't gonna be the year. It's gonna be the same thing as last year. You see, now, let me know. Remember, this is a discussion. You have an opportunity, if I'm going too fast, say, hey, explain that point to me again. Because I want us to stick with this, okay? So, in summary, narratives shape our perceptions. And I think, Jasmine, you can follow along with this too, because this is important. This is how we all learn. Narratives shape our perceptions, which in turn form our realities. Now listen to this. Follow the progression of the language. Narratives shape our perception, which in turn form our realities and end up influencing our choices and actions in life.
That's true.
Y'all follow the progression?
That's true.
The narrative shapes the perception. What's the old saying that we've always heard? Perception is what? Reality. Perception is reality. Which in turn, like I said, narratives shape the perception, which in turn forms our reality, which end up influencing our choices and actions. So if the world wants us to do something, they're going to give it to us in a narrative. They're not just going to tell you this is what you need to do. You're not going to go there because you think you're autonomous. You just missed that. If I tell you, why do you think people push back on if I tell you to do something? Because you think you're autonomous. But if I encapsulate it in a narrative and make you identify with it, then you'll probably end up doing what I want you to do, or believing what I want you to believe. Let's take it a step forward. Let's look at it from let's look at it from the Bible. Okay, believe it, the Bible is comprised of over 40% narrative. The Bible. Now y'all tell me, where's the biggest portion of the narrative of the Bible at? The Old Testament. Old Testament. Now think about it. Who's read some of the stories in the Old Testament? So you have. Now I want you to think about when you read them. When you read them and you're reading these stories in the Old Testament, are you seeing words flash by your brain? Am I confusing y'all? What I mean by that?
Pictures.
Thank you, Raymond. Y'all talk to me. When you're reading, okay, if you read about the story of Goliath, are you hearing G-O-L, that's what you see in your brain, G-O-L-I-A-T-H, that's what you see in your head. Or what do? As you're reading the story, you picture Goliath, you picture David. Now again, I follow this. I want you to see how powerful I'm talking about. You don't even know what David looked like.
Right.
But you will formulate something in your brain.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Something's going to be there. You're not going to see D-A-V-I-D. That's what you see.
Right.
What's the old saying I say? If I say hippopotamus, did y'all see the word? You saw a hippo. you just saw a hippo. Now again, I don't know what the hippo could look like. Some of the hippo could look like, what's the little cartoon? Madagascar hippo. It could be some hippo that you know, whatever. It's like when people say they heard the voice of God, you always should ask them what he sound like.
Right.
I guarantee you that voice is going to sound like some authority figure in your life. For a child, the voice of God may sound like a parent. For an adult, the voice of God will probably, if you're in a church somewhere, it'll sound like a preacher.
Right.
But don't miss it. That's not the voice of God. Why is it not the voice of God, Kev? Because you ain't never heard. Do y'all get it? Am I confusing you? Mama, you get it? Why is that not the voice of God in your head? Because you've never heard God's voice, his audible voice.
No, yeah.
We know the voice of God. Why? Because we read it in the pages of Scripture.
Exactly.
When Jesus says, my sheep know my voice, and the voice of a stranger they will not follow, what is Jesus talking about? He's talking about the Bible. He's not talking about, now again, if you were listening to Jesus talk and say that, you would know his voice.
Right.
But for those of us who don't, guess how we know it now? Through the pages of Scriptures. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to say is, not only do we communicate in narratives, that's how we learn. That's how we see. Think about when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to your spouse, you're explaining something. You have to understand that that individual is not just hearing your words. They're seeing a scene play out in their minds of what you're saying. And depending on how they see that scene is going to determine what they believe about it, what they think about it, whether they agree with you, even though you're saying words.
Right.
And this is why some of them they'll come up with something totally different, and you're like, where you get that from? Well, what you got to understand is they're saying something totally different in their head from what you're saying. It would be no different if, you tell your spouse or something. Okay, let's take something simple. Let's say if you say, man, the house is messed up. Now, Lindsay laughing because, okay, depending on, now if I say the house is messed up, that's just some words you say. No. The person sees something.
Right.
What do you think they may see? I'm going to let Lindsay.
Their version.
No, she can't laugh. I want you to see something. If I come and say the house is messed up, the person sees something. Now, depending on how that person sees a messed up house, they looking around like, man, what are you talking about? Ain't nothing wrong with this. Now, it could be clothes over there that ain't been folded up. It could be some junk over there. But to that person, in their perception, that's not messed up. For them to say it's messed up, it's got to be roaches everywhere. It's got to be food all over the floor. And then to them, it's messed up. Now, to somebody totally different, messed up could be that pillar is not where it was. And there's a blanket that Jasmine was using that she didn't fold up, and it's thrown there. Raymond left that cup there. Now again, follow the pillow's out of place, the blanket's thrown up, and the cup there. Man, look at my den. This is all the power of how our mind plays and how we utilize narratives. It's very important. The Bible is composed of 40% of narratives, and that's how we read the Bible. That's how we read the Old Testament. Listen to this. The Old Testament tells the narrative about God's creation of the universe and humanity. Then it moves to his involvement with humanity through the nation of Israel. And then it moves to his interaction with the world through the Gentile nations. That's the narrative of the Old Testament. That's the narrative of the Old Testament. And listen to this. Listen to this. The goal of the Old Testament narrative, well, you tell me. What do you think the goal of the Old Testament narrative is? What do you think it is?
The goal of the Old Testament?
Yes. What is the goal? What is that narrative in the Old Testament trying to convey to us or get us to influence us to believe? What do you think the goal of the Old Testament narrative is? Go ahead.
To me, it's like that God is holy, and it's either you do this and you live, or you do this and you die. And that's kind of my takeaway from Old Testament.
Okay. Yeah, somebody tell me something else.
Oh, God, I think they're going there. God's holiness, man's sin, man's fallenness.
Okay.
Then the need to bridge that gap.
Okay, what else? Anybody else want to take a stab at it? Remember, don't be shy.
I look at it as maybe an instruction as to how to live, how we should, you know.
Okay, this is really good because we're seeing everybody's how they interpret narratives.
Yeah.
What else? Raymond, look at it. Anybody else? Anybody else? I mean, when you think of the Old Testament, let me give it to you like this. Listen to this. Now, again, nobody's wrong. But let me tell you, the overall arching narrative of the Old Testament is this. The narrative is told through the nation of Israel, which is meant to reveal the coming of Jesus Christ as the sin bearer and the sin offering of the world, culminated in his death, burial, and resurrection. That's the whole goal. Nobody's wrong in saying this about humanity, about sin, about holiness, but the overall theme of the Old Testament is to tell you the story about God through the nation of Israel. Follow what I'm saying? In order to reveal the coming of Jesus Christ. Y'all get that? That's it. If you miss that and you think the purpose of the Old Testament is to highlight Israel, then that's how you become a Hebrew Israelite. Because you think Israel is the main thing. Just as well in the New Testament, you would think the church is the main thing. The main thing of the Bible is Jesus. And it's so simple. You either have one story that is leading you to him, and the next story is leading you to his return. Everything is summed up in those two things. In his coming and his return. That's it. All things. All things. You see how simple that is? That's the whole purpose of the narrative. Whole purpose of it. Now think about this. God chose to give us that narrative, give us that picture of the coming of Jesus Christ in the form of a narrative.
Yes.
Now, somebody said, well, how come he just didn't open the Bible and say, my son is coming, here's what he going to look like, this is what he going to do, and y'all believe it. Then you go to the New Testament. Now he coming back, this is what he going to do. Why you didn't do it like that? Why did God choose to give us a narrative? Why did he give us a research paper? Why did he give us a report? A schematic? Why did he choose to give it to us in narrative? Why did he choose to reveal himself to us in the form of narrative? For example, Genesis chapter 1 through 3 is a narrative given to Moses from God that tells the story of the creation of the universe and humanity and the subsequent fall of the humanity. Do y'all realize that Genesis chapter 1 through chapter 3 is a narrative? Right. It's a narrative. It's a story. It's a story. It's a true narrative about a story about true events. Now think about it. God could have set Moses down and gave him a scientific research paper. I'm going to tell you how I created everything. One, I took molecule C and uranium and all these different elements of this and put this all together, and that's how he could have gave it to us. But he doesn't do that. He gives you a narrative that you begin, if you read Genesis chapter 1 and you're reading the creation story, I don't know about you, you begin to see it in your mind. And again, you just kind of, your brain is going off. You say he separated the firmament from the firmament. And you're like, wow, what does that look like? And you're just sitting. He chose to do it that way. It's telling you the power of narrative. The power of narrative, guys. The reason why he does it through narrative is because you can't communicate your nature. You can't communicate your character through a research paper, through a report. When I used to write research papers in seminary, they don't tell you nothing about me. They tell you about the information that I'm just... Has anybody ever wrote a research paper before? Like a real research paper? I'm talking a real one. Now, if you, I know in seminary you write a paper. I'm talking about where it's got like footnotes. It is written, and I should let you read one. Like they would be like 22, 25 page papers that we would write. And if you read it, I let Lindsay see. You'll be like, "What are you talking about?" The professor would know what I'm talking about, but nobody else would know what I'm talking about. Opposed if I gave it to you in a story, you would get exactly what I'm talking about. Now, again, guys, the purpose of a narrative is to convey truth while also revealing the character and nature of the author. That's the true purpose of a narrative. That's the true purpose of it, is to convey truth by revealing to you something about the person who's conveying the narrative. Now, I want you to think about what we're talking about and think about it in the context of today. It can be very, very deceptive. And I'm just kind of walking us to this whole point. In context, guys, the narrative gives us a context in which we're supposed to hear the truth out. It gives us a context. It gives us a framework in how we're supposed to believe. That's what the whole narrative, that's the true purpose of it. The true purpose of it. God doesn't just want you to believe that you came from dust.
Right.
You want to know something? Why you read what would it be? 5 days of creation, and on the sixth day God creates man?
Yeah.
Why do you think he wrote it like that? Because it tells you the meticulous care upon which God took to create all things before he would put the man there and made sure all the conditions were favorable and right before he created man. That lets you know something about God. He doesn't just create the man and then got like, oops, man, I forgot to create the earth. No, he creates man with the earth, Jordan, and he's like, oh my God, I forgot to create the oceans. And then all of a sudden man is standing on the land and then the ocean is just plopping out there. Man, he would have died. Or he creates man early on the fourth day, and he creates man on the sixth day. But before he creates man first, and then he creates the animals.
Yeah.
How do you think that would have went? So you got Nancy and Raymond, they're being created, and then also God said, "Oh my God, I gotta create some animals." Boom! And then all of a sudden, man, all these animals show up. Man, come on, this would have been a disaster.
Like, what are you doing?
What I'm telling you is the true purpose of the narrative is to convey something about the author. That's the whole purpose about it. When you get to the New Testament, the narrative of the New Testament is about the person and work of Jesus Christ that then moves to his involvement with humanity through the church and then his impact on the world through his death, burial, and resurrection. That's the whole purpose of the narrative. The whole purpose of it. This will help you guys when you're reading and studying the Bible. Yes. We make the Bible is not complicated communication. If you understand that the whole purpose of the narrative is to reveal Christ, you'll never get it wrong. It's never about you. It's never about your power. The Bible isn't trying to tell you how you can heal and deliver and how you can go and walk on the water and do all these things. No, it's all about Christ. The Old Testament is not trying to reveal Israel being the bomb. And guess what, man? We all got to be little Jews and we got to do it like they did it. And if you're not careful, especially when you listen to Hebrew Israelites, you think God was a Jewish God. That God is sitting in heaven with a yarmulke on and you know, he's doing all the stuff the Jews do. He's kosher. Do you want to know why God told Israel had certain dietary laws? Anybody know why? There you go. To just separate them from the regular people. No. He had those dietary laws because he knew that crabs were not good, and when you eat the crab, you're going to be sick. Well, when God created all the animals, he said all things are good. And then furthermore, he told Peter, don't you call unclean what I've cleaned. That's right. It wasn't never about the animals being bad. It's like when you think about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Why did God tell Adam and Eve that they couldn't bite of the tree of God and evil? Was it an ugly tree? Was it a poisonous tree? And God was trying to keep them from the poison. No, I guarantee that tree looked just as beautiful as any other tree in the garden. We'll think it looked like an old decrepit poltergeist tree. Y'all remember the first poltergeist with the tree that came and then got the little boy? Y'all don't remember that? Maybe y'all think the tree looked like a weeping willow. Come on, if it looked like that, then Eve ain't gonna be attracted to that. You talking about that old decrepit looking dead tree? No, the tree looked good. The tree was beautiful. The whole purpose why God put the restriction there is what? Just for obedience. It was a test of obedience. It wasn't that God said don't bite the tree because if you bite it, you're going to get poisoned. What I'm trying to show you guys is narrative is powerful. Narrative is powerful. Narratives are a powerful tool of communication that makes themes and ideas, listen to this, palatable so that people can embrace them, accept them, and ultimately come to believe them. That's what narratives do. And man, we are in the midst of a narrative war in this country. Oh my God, we're in the midst of it. Let's go a little deeper. In the book called Nourishing Narratives, The Power of Story to Shape Our Faith, Jennifer Holberg, listen to what she writes, quote, "We live in a world that, for better or worse, we seem to process through narratives." Notice what she said, we live in a world that, for better or worse, that we seem to process through narratives, not facts. Right. Not facts. Guys, I wrote this down. This is powerful statement because you would think that people should care more about facts as opposed to the narrative given to them. Okay, think about our politics right now. You would think that people should care about facts. Nobody cares about facts. We just care about the narrative. And people get caught up in the narrative. That's the people who you talk to, well, are you going to vote for Kamala? Heck no, man, I don't even like her. What you don't like about her? You know, anything. I just think she's fake. What is that? Well, you going to vote for Trump? No, I can't stand Trump. Well, why? Then you start regurgitating the CNN talking points or whatever. You don't even know why you don't like them. That's the power of a narrative. That's the power of a narrative. Do you understand? Okay, y'all looking at me days. Think about you have a friend, Kevin, and he doesn't like somebody. he then tells Kevin about what that person is doing. Kevin then automatically now doesn't like that individual as well. Why doesn't Kevin like him? Because of the narrative is now here's the deal. Kevin has no direct interaction with this individual. You get the power of a narrative? That's powerful. That's a powerful view, guys, because it's not the facts that constrains us, guys. It's not distraction. Listen to this. Holberg goes on to say, societal attitudes on whatever issue, whether towards smoking or politics, war or sexuality, are affected more by narratives than by law, end quote. How in the world did you get the whole world to embrace smoking?
Made it look cool.
Made it look cool. Created a narrative around it.
Sophisticated.
How did you get the whole world to embrace? Now again, I know we have some people like, Jordan, Narada, Jasmine, who maybe are younger, and they don't understand that in the early 80s, shows were made a certain way. Where they didn't depict certain things. But how do you make promiscuity and fornication and all these things look appealing? How do you get the masses to agree with that? You create a narrative through shows that make it look cool, make it look hip, make it look what?
Shows and music.
Shows and music. Me, Kevin, and Raymond, we always end up talking about, even when my cousins are together, but I know we talk about it, the power of music.
It's very powerful. Extremely powerful.
And especially us as Gen Xers, we remember when the music shifted. Like we can remember when there was bubblegum rap.
Right.
Just rapping about stuff, it's like a jungle sometimes. I mean, just rap like that.
Right. Little jumpy shit.
Then, you moved over to Kool Moe Dee, Big Daddy Kane, they talk about my car, this, that. Kool Moe Dee had a song that was famous in the 80s, I Go to Work. Yeah. And the whole song was about I go to work like a doctor. I go to work like he was talking about professions, but that was the rap. Right. And you were just, I go to work like a doctor. But you're like, okay, that's what they're rapping about. And then all of a sudden in the late 80s, we get Cop Killer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
We get F the Police.
Right.
We get Boys in the Hood. We get that genre of music all the way to killing and stealing and you see, that's the power of narrative, and it creates a culture over time.
Yes, it has.
We were talking about this. You will have people who will say, well, and this has nothing to do with politics. Well, I can't vote for Donald Trump because he's a convicted felon. But sometimes, especially if they're young people, I said, let me see your playlist in your phone. They listening to, now again, I can't vote for Donald Trump, but he's a convicted felon, but Kamala Harris had Quavo come out there. Now, I know for mom and them, you don't know who Quavo is. Quavo, he's from the Mika. I can't vote for a convicted felon, but let's have Quavo talk about gun violence. Can I play you some of Quavo's songs?
That's a rapper.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. He have a whole song. He in the kitchen whipping stir fry. He talking about drugs. But let's have him talk about, hey, I'm going to tell you why, because his narrative creates an identity that people can identify with. And then they don't even listen to what he's saying. They just identify with him. Narratives are powerful, guys. As a matter of fact, let's look at an example. Go to Genesis chapter 3, just right quick. Genesis chapter 3. Everybody with me here? Genesis chapter 3. Y'all tell me, follow, if you're kind of following what I'm saying, are you thinking? Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Let me show you, we talked about it from the way God uses it, because he's the author of it all, the true narrative. Let's look at Satan. Look at Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty, or yours may say subtle, than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, did God actually say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? Let's stop there. Let's see if we can, up front, catch the narrative. Here's what we find, that we have a serpent who's more crafty. Now that's important that that's there. Why do you think the scripture, I'm getting, y'all got to use your brains. Why do you think the scripture says that, why does it start off telling you that the serpent is more crafty before it tells you what the serpent says? Why do you think it does that?
Because it's painting you a narrative about the serpent.
Come on. Y'all are going to help me with this.
And how
So you would know, Narada, that the serpent asking that question is not asking it because he wants to convey information. He's asking it because he's crafty and he's subtle. He's slick.
Yeah, he's slick, bro.
That's the whole purpose of it. So he creates this narrative. Now watch this. Here it is. Notice the narrative told by the serpent. He knows well, already starting off, the serpent knows that God gave Adam and Eve a measure of freedom in the garden. He knows it. He knows it. But the way he crafts the question is, did God really say, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? What's wrong with that question?
It's laced with doubt. It's laced with, it's a question that, it's one of those questions that, like, he's asking it, but he's calling into question the question.
Yeah, okay. You know, okay. I would tell you this, women are the best at that type of question. They want to you want to catch your man. Did you really go to Walmart?
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Listen up, Narada, you better know that ain't a question. Jordan already know you didn't go.
There's something behind it, right?
She already know you didn't go.
Right.
She's been tracking your every footstep. I already know it. The question is not meant for you to give me some information. The question is meant for me to trap you. It's to create a narrative that I'm going to get you to hang yourself on. Like a lawyer, or also like how journalists craft questions today.
Right, exactly.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Already, I'm creating a scenario for you. Satan knows, or the serpent knows, that God gave him a measure of freedom. How do you know that? Because in Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 and 17, it says, and the Lord God commanded the man, saying, you may surely eat of every tree of the garden. Notice how God says it. You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. Go ahead.
And I also think that's, okay, when it talks about the serpent was more cunning, I think he also, because he is so cunning and crafty, he knew to go to Eve because the command was given to Adam, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, he's crafty in who he goes to with the commandment. He's crafty about who, think about this, and again, think about narratives in the world. They're crafty in how they could be, what is the word I'm looking at? Zeroed in at a specific group.
Yes.
Specific group.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I could craft a narrative that zeroes in on black folk. I can craft a narrative that zeroes in on seniors. I can craft a narrative that zeroes in on Gen Zs. Zeroes in on women. You get it? You know, it was one time they were interviewing Stacey Abrams, and she was on MSNBC. And they asked Stacey Abrams, are you kind of alarmed at the time when she was running for governor here in Georgia, are you alarmed by the fact that a lot of black men are not, you're not getting that black male vote? Here's how Stacey Abrams answered the question. Well, no, I'm not surprised because there's a lot of misinformation going on out there. And because of that misinformation, a lot of people are being deceived and a lot of people are being led to think certain things, and which is causing them to be impacted by who they're going to vote for. Somebody says, well, what's wrong with that answer? Y'all tell me, what's wrong with that answer? What kind of narrative did Stacey Abrams produce? When the guy asked her, why isn't black men voting for you? Why do you find that out? Her answer was, there's a lot of misinformation going on out there.
I'd like to know what's the misinformation.
No, she automatically stated that group did not do this because they are accepting the misinformation. So she said it subtly that they're only doing this because they've received the misinformation. No, she said they received. There's no misinformation.
There's no misinformation.
I'm telling you that their decision is based on, like whatever their decision was, which was not to vote for them, is the misinformation.
Yeah. When the true answer is, I didn't vote for you because I don't agree with you. Do you get that, Jordan?
So the narrative was there's misinformation.
That's why they're not voting for me. If they would just get the right information. Now watch this. Here's why the narrative is powerful. If they would just get the right information, they would vote for it. Who giving you the right information?
Exactly.
Right.
So the right information is her.
You got to see, you won't even catch that mom in the language. But what she's telling you subconsciously is the right information is to listen to me and what we're saying. And the reason why these black men ain't voting for me because they ignorant and they won't listen. That's why you have the now saying going around. Roland Martin is making it famous, vote like a black woman. What is that telling you? That's telling you he's telling black men vote like a black woman. So you're too stupid to know what to vote for yourself. Listen to your black woman. She'll tell you who to vote for. See, this is how narratives are created. If you're not careful, it is very insulting. It's insulting what they do to us with politics. It's insulting and crafty how they craft a narrative and create a picture where most people are honestly, guys, I'm sorry, too ignorant to even notice that they're being deceived. Go ahead, Mom.
Would that be the same thing as voting for somebody because Megan Thee Stallion was there, so...
Oh, yes, okay, now, let's talk about the Megan Thee Stallion. Mom went there, I didn't go there, y'all. So, okay. If you're here in Atlanta, Megan Thee Stallion, a woman calls herself Thee Stallion. Stallion is a male horse, okay. She is on stage, and she's at the Kamala Harris rally. Y'all tell me, what's the purpose of bringing Megan Thee Stallion out there?
So everybody, they know who she is, so since she out there, and she likes comedy, maybe I need to look at some,
Okay, you're right, but let's zero it in. Because Mama, you don't know who Megan Thee Stallion is. Let's say you was at the rally, and then you see this well-endowed chick come out there, and you're like, man, who is she?
Yeah.
You don't know who she is. So why is she out there?
So the target audience is for the young people?
Young people.
Young people that listen to that kind of music?
Okay, one. Got the young people. Who else?
Black
To influence her,
women?
yeah, black women.
Black women. Okay, who else? Huh? Oh, listen to Jordan. Gays. How about people who can identify with Megan Thee Stallion?
Yeah. Those that like her and like
People who can identify with her, they like Megan Thee Stallion. They like the song she sings. Like in other words, they do what she say in the song. That's their life.
But if I didn't know that and I found it out, I could be insulted by that, couldn't I?
Exactly. That's you guys are on it. The whole goal is everyone should be exalted by that.
Okay.
That instead of you, Kamala, talking about the issue and what you're going to do as president, you bring a rapper out here who raps some of the most vulgar lyrics and proceeds to shake her behind on stage in front of everybody for the world to see. And as she says, get out and vote.
It's the most undignified.
It's like when they had during the 2020 election, the campaign called, I can't even say it, H's to the polls. Or get your booties to the polls. Or what? You like, what? What? That's what you think of us? That's what you think of a certain segment of the population? Guys, what I'm trying to get you to see, that's a narrative. That's a narrative.
Yeah.
That's a narrative. It's a powerful narrative. Think about how Satan does. Lindsay said it. He purposely goes after that woman to craft a language for her. Even though, now hear this. What's the true narrative in the whole story? The true narrative is God said you can eat of every tree, but you just can't eat of that one. That's the true narrative. Y'all follow that? That's the true narrative of the thing. Again, the serpent knew that the only restriction God gave to Adam and Eve was not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now listen to this. The narrative told by the serpent, however, suggests that even if there's one restriction imposed on you, you're not free.
Amen.
If I put one there, guys, you know what I'm talking about. Think about children. Right. You could give a child 100 yeses. Let you say one no. What would that child yell at? You don't let me do nothing. Right. I don't let you do nothing? I just gave you 100 yeses. And the one time I say no because I'm tired, I don't feel like doing it, man, I don't never do nothing. It's so boring in here. You know, we used to always do that with our kids. You know, let's say we're not doing nothing today. Well, what we doing today? Well, we done something all week. Man, I'm so bored, man. We ain't done nothing. We ain't done. Raymond, no matter we was on vacation. Raymond, I did this whole vacation, man. You know. And Raymond was like, it upset Raymond. Because I done all of this. Right. Well, what we doing today? Well, where we going? Why we can't go here? He was like, wow. But that's exactly how.
Lazy river pool, that's a resort. Oh, we didn't go to Universal.
That's how the brain works, though. See, think about it. When God tells Adam that not to bite of that tree, God doesn't necessarily provide any meaning to why he can't bite the tree. He just tells him not to do it. Now we get to the point, guys. The serpent uses the narrative to create the meaning. Did I lose you? God doesn't give any meaning. What did God say? Don't eat of it. That's all he says. Now again, does God give them the meaning? What would be the meaning, Jordan? If he bites of that tree, you're going to plunge the world into sin. People are going to die and go to hell. Oh my God, Satan is going to be the ruler of it. God doesn't explain all that because Eve probably would have, or Adam would have jumped off the cliff. I mean, he wouldn't have known what to do. That's too much information.
There you have it. And you planted a seed. You planted a seed there that people wouldn't understand. Like even from that narrative, you got a human being that's perfect in mind, and technically you would say there's no negative forces, but to paint a picture to say, hey, if you eat this tree, you plunge where that, well, you just planted a seed of what can be. It can breed a desire to possibly see what happens. So that even from that.
Do y'all follow that? Also, by telling Adam all what's going to happen if he bite it, Adam could also be like, well, what in the world was going on before you created all of this? Like, think about it. God said, if you do that, you're going to plunge the world in sin. Satan, whoa, go back to that point. Who is he? I didn't hear nothing about no Satan. I ain't seen no Satan. I ain't seen nothing. In other words, he gives, think about you if you try to sit down and the child says, well, can we go to a vacation this week? And the parents just say, no, we're not going this year. We go every other year. Now, little do you know, the reason why we ain't going here is because we ain't got no money. And we got other stuff we got to pay. And there are other things pressing right now. We got bills to pay. We got to move. We got to get this over here together. The car needs a transmission. That's why we really like, imagine trying to sit your child down and explain all that to them. No, what do you typically do? We just ain't going. Because you understand that that type of information does not lead to the child being, oh my God, this is so great. No, that leads to a child of what Kevin said, more confusion.
And more frustrating.
Yeah, you imagine telling your child, oh man, we can't go because the house is late. We finna lose the house?
You put burden.
Well, we gonna lose the car?
But they can't help you.
Well, you mean tell me, Mom, I can't get no clothes? I'm gonna have to wait to see. He said, now all of a sudden you done put more stuff that needs to be out there. No, what God does to Adam is just don't bite of it. But what Satan does with his false narrative, he adds meaning to it. And here's what I want you to get. The meaning that he adds is a what type of meaning? It's a lie.
Yeah, because he hit her.
Excuse me.
But his question was a lie. Because he said to the woman, did God actually say you shall not eat of any of the trees in the garden? God didn't ever say that.
No, you didn't.
So he asked her a question that wasn't even true in the first place.
Exactly.
She was the one that responded, well, no, we eat of all the trees in the garden, but the one in the midst of the garden.
Yeah, he already had her.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you ever want to dissect, Kevin talked about with the mind, dissect Genesis 3 verses 1, and even go all the way to 7, to when you see how they responded. When you quickly recognize who told them to respond like that. Why did they go run and hide themselves? Why did they go get fig leaves? When God shows up to him and said, Adam, where are you? Well, we heard your voice in the garden, man, and I hid myself because I was naked. What does God say? He didn't say what you done. He said, man, who told you you were naked? Wow, that's powerful to me. God goes right to the, who told you were naked?
Didn't know that at first.
Wow.
You never say, you see, he didn't say, what did you do? Did you bite? He says, who told you you were naked?
Right.
And then God says, did you partake of the tree that I, boom. Let me give you another example of this narrative. I think y'all are getting it. Go to Matthew 28. Let's see if you catch this one. Y'all did good with that one. You know, we done beat Genesis 3. Yeah. See if y'all get this one. Matthew chapter 28, verse 11 through 15. I want y'all to see if y'all get this one. Okay, Matthew chapter 28, verses 11 through 15. All right? I'm going to read it. It says, now this is after the resurrection. It says, while they were going, behold, some of the guards went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. Now, stop there. Notice what he says. While they were going, who's the they? Those are the guards. These were the guards that were at the tomb. They went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. Now, what took place? You have to go up to verse 2. Matthew chapter 28, verse 2. Here's what took place. And behold, a great earthquake. Now, here's the truth. Here's the truth of what happened. Behold, a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord descended from heaven and came and rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes was white as snow. And for fear of him, the guards trembled and became like dead men. So, that's what they saw. And that's what they reported to the chief priest. Y'all follow it? They go back to the city. Nancy, the chief priest, his a being, an angel came down and he moved the stone out of the way and he was like lightning. That's what happened. He's telling Nancy that. But look at verse 12. Matthew 28, verse 12. And when they had assembled with all the elders, so the chief priest gets the story. Then he goes back and he assembles with the elders, and taking counsel, they gave sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, tell people his disciples came by night and stole him away while you were asleep. And if this comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble. So they took the money and did as they were directed, and this story has been spread among the Jews to this day.
That is right.
Did y'all, what's the narrative?
The narrative is, what, the true narrative or the one that they...
Well, we know the true narrative. The angel came down there, moved the stone away, and sat on it, and the people and the soldiers.
So they're saying that what they wanted people to believe is that somebody came and stole them while they were sleeping.
Because what are they trying to dispute?
They're trying to dispute that he rose from the dead.
That's the narrative. The narrative is, don't miss it. He didn't rise from the dead. Don't go around telling people that.
You know what you're saying.
Even though I know you saw it,
Right.
I probably think, wow, that's powerful. Man, like I told you, when we go through the Gospel of Luke, you're going to find out the Pharisees knew exactly who Jesus was. They knew exactly he was the Messiah. They just didn't care. You follow this? The narrative is this. It wasn't no resurrection.
Right.
That's the narrative. Now, the question of it is that's what, now follow this, and I'm going to get you right. That's what I want to convey. It ain't no resurrection. How do I get that out to people? Do I just go in there and tell the people, there ain't no resurrection, wasn't no resurrection, wasn't no resurrection? No, what do? How do I get that information out to people? I create a narrative. What's the narrative that they created?
Somebody stole them.
There's disciples. They stole the Bible.
Now let's see. Why did they say that?
Why did they say that?
Why would they say the disciples came and stole the body?
Oh, because they know that the disciples love Jesus, right? So they would want to, I guess, go
Could it be maybe it was more believable than them believing that
It's more.
he rose from the dead?
And Mama just said it. You got to go back to chapter 27.
Yeah.
They had already set the story up.
Yeah.
In chapter 27, verse 62, listen to this. This is after Jesus was dead. The next day, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, Sir, we remember how that impostor said while he was still alive, after 3 days I will rise. Like, get this. They knew he was going to get up from the dead. Do y'all get that? Okay, do y'all, Jordan, you get that? They knew he was going to get up from the dead. But you know, Pilate, that impostor, you know, before he died, he kept saying that he was going to rise 3 days. Therefore, listen to this, order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people he is risen from the dead, and the last fall will be worse than the first. Pilate said to them, you have a guard of soldiers, go make it as secure as you can. So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting the guard. Do y'all see how they already set the story up?
Yeah.
Okay. I talk about this when we go to politics. And again, I hate to use this as an example because it doesn't matter what you vote for. The story of politics doesn't come during the election season. You got to set the stuff up already. This is why I tell people, and me and Lizzie have been talking about this, I shared it with Raymond and them, don't underestimate Kamala Harris.
They already knew this was going to happen.
Because they already set the narrative
Yeah.
against Donald Trump.
Right.
What's the narrative? Already been set. He's a womanizer, he's a racist, he's this. That's already been set. So now when this comes, it makes you say, well, man, in 2020, when she was put as vice president, and the choice was between her, what's the other lady name? Stacey Abrams and our mayor at the time, Keisha Lance Bottom. Well, Keisha Lance Bottom said she didn't want it. Most people knew Stacey Abrams wasn't going to get it. And the other person was Kamala Harris.
She was already there.
So could it be that, hey man, the scenario was already set in place on what would come?
Yeah, you moving
Okay.
on the chessboard.
Remember, I told you there's a video that you can find on YouTube of President then Gerald Ford. He was running against Ronald Reagan. This was before Ronald Reagan became president in 1980. I think because y'all know Ronald Reagan ran before for president and didn't get it. And he ran against Gerald Ford. Gerald Ford actually got the nomination, so that's okay. During the primary between Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford, the question was asked, will there ever be a woman president? This is in the 70s. And Gerald Ford said, he said, I'll give you a scenario how it's probably going to happen. There will be a president who will be elected, and he will have a vice president that's a female. Right. He said, and while he's the president, he will either die in office or resign from office, thus making the female the first president of the United States. And he said, and after that happens, that female will be able to run for president and females will be elected to office. And he said that in the 70s. Wow. And that is exactly the scenario that we have. What I'm trying to get you guys to see is that's narrative. That's narrative. Even to the point where it says, the Jews believe the story to this day.
To this day.
To this day.
To this day. Even to this day.
To this day. If you go talk to, listen to Ben Shapiro. When you get to talking to him about the resurrection, he said, I don't want to hear about fantasy. I don't want to hear about that. He said, you say he was rose from the dead. That's not what we believe. We don't believe in that. He just kind of dismisses it. Because to this day, that's still believed amongst the Jews.
They still believe that.
Yeah, that number one, he didn't rise from the dead. His disciples took him, or he's still there. Or they just don't know where the grave is.
And wouldn't that be more proof that, okay, I already felt like he was a fraud anyway, so he set this up, he might have set this up to having them steal, just to go along with who we say he was.
Exactly. The narrative was already set up while Jesus was on earth. That he was a fraud, he was an imposter, he did his miracles through Satan. What I'm trying to get you to say is, guys, narratives are not set up overnight. It takes time to create a narrative where people believe it.
It just gives you the power of words.
It's the power of words, the power of narratives. You don't believe because you just believe. You're not that smart. I'm not that smart. I hope you hear me. I'm not that smart just to believe. I believe based upon a collective amount of information that's been given to me that I tend to identify with, and then boom. That's just what I go with. Go ahead.
There's another narrative too, though.
Go ahead. Give it to me before I give you this. Go ahead.
Yeah, the other narrative is they did believe they did know that he was who he said he was. They were afraid of the Romans, and they knew that if this had got out of control, if they didn't quell it, that the Romans would come and take away their place, because they loved their place more than they knew.
Yeah.
They loved the status and what they had. They were willing to let go of.
And they said that in John. Remember, they got together and they said, man, if this keeps going on, the Romans going to come and take us out of our place. Right. So in other words, man, we got to cover this all up. What I'm trying to tell you is, guys, you can have a narrative, and the narrative doesn't have to be based upon truth. The narrative just supplies some type of meaning, whether that meaning is true or false, to get everybody to try to agree and to believe it.
And even the soldiers, though. Think about the soldiers narrative. They knew that it got out, that that grave had got broken.
They gonna die.
They could have lost their lives, and they knew what they seen. They knew what they saw. I mean, that wasn't no.
Now, let me say this. Let's deal with that right there. Notice what Raymond just said. The soldiers knew what they saw. But what you about to say?
I mean, those are the parts of the Bible that I think, man, and we do it to this day, but we won't say it just because it's an angel. But you see things in life, in a couple of days later, you wash your hands and you brush it off, or you downplay.
Yeah.
And I believe, like you say, even in a light like this with an angel, you're dealing with forces that you like, nah, I never seen it. So, no, that dead. Or people, how society gonna look at me if I go out and say this thing happened? An angel, really? An angel.
Even though, but I want you to get it. Don't miss it. Even even though the truth is that's what it was. So what I'm trying, think about society today. We're living in a world that wants you to deny reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people.
See, y'all think that's by accident. You can, okay, you can see it with your own eyes. Like, okay, we all saw the debate.
Right.
You saw the debate, right? Narada, you saw the debate. Now, again, you looking at the debate with your own eyes. Now, what are your own eyes telling you? Ooh, Biden look, oh man, something wrong. No, again, even if you are for him, you just like, man, that something didn't look right. Boy, he look pretty bad. Okay, just like, let's say if you listen to Trump talk, you know, because we would listen to the rally he was at, and you're like, man, Trump a jerk. You know, what I'm trying to say, that's what y'all, but then let's say they come out just like they did with Biden. Oh, nothing wrong. He just had a bad night. A bad night? No, it looked like something is off mentally. What I'm trying to get you is we're told to deny what we see. But again, that's the power of a narrative. The narrative can be so impressed upon you, so thick that you will deny what you even saw. To where now you will live in a world that if I'm 6'5", 6'6", and I put a wig on, keep my beard, and I tell you I'm a woman, some of you will go along with that.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. You want me, man?
And then if I tell you my pronouns are they and them, you will figure out how you can say that stupidity and have language.
That's a delusion.
Knowing good and well, if I talked about Lindsay and I go up to Jordan and I said, they cooking today, Jordan gonna say, who's all cooking? Oh, I'm talking about one person. Right. Or Jasmine, her pronouns are Zer. And I say, Zer is coming over. Zer? Her name's Zer? Right. No, that's a pronoun. This is lunacy. We ought to be committed if we go by that.
Wow.
That is absolute lunacy. Deny reality. Let's do it. We saw live. Oh, what is a woman? I don't know. Am I a biologist? But then now we have the first woman running for president. The question should be, well, who is she?
Right, or what is she?
What is she?
How do you identify her?
You get it? But let's just deny reality. Let us all come up with it ourselves. Guys, that's the power of narratives. Oh, they're so powerful. Go ahead, Mom.
Maybe this is not the same thing, but remember what was the guy, Rodney King? Remember when we all saw him got beat up, and then, I don't know, I think they got off or something, and I remember somebody in the news report said, didn't we all see that tape?
Yeah.
And see him beating this man up, and then just, you know.
Yeah.
But we were told, is that the same thing?
It is the same thing. The only deal with that is to where it could be a little bit hairy is we didn't see it.
Yes.
We didn't see it.
Raymond just said it. We saw it through the television.
Through the media, that's right.
Just like I always ask people, where were you when you saw 9/11? Oh, I was here. No, you weren't. You saw it on the television screen. The only people who saw it were the people that was in New York that was on the street and looked up and saw something happening like that. You didn't see it. You saw what the television told you it was. Do y'all understand that? And then it'll really mess you up when you understand that everything we watch is on a delay.
That's true.
That'll tell you, there's nothing live. Yeah. Even the football games we watch are on a time delay. Okay. Do y'all understand that? Talk to people that are baby boomers. Oh man, I remember watching when Buzz Armstrong and all them, what's the other guy, landed on the moon. Oh, you saw that? No, you saw what they played for you up on the screen. And somebody says, well, no, I know I saw it. Well, have you seen any of the movies today? They got movies and CGI today, man, make it look like, man, you on Saturn.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, no, I saw this person on television. Did you?
Did you touch?
How you know that that was them. They could have been wearing a mask. Oh, you being stupid. So you telling me masks don't exist? I can show you what they call them, designers and design them characters. Man, they look real. Have anybody seen those YouTube videos when they show the people who get in their makeup for like the Marvel characters? Anybody seen them? Like the lady who played in Guardians of the Galaxy who's green, they show how long it took her to put on the green makeup. It was another one, I forgot the girl that was like the mechanical girl, how long it took them to put the makeup on her. And when they come out, they don't look nothing like what they look like.
Avatar, same thing.
So what I'm trying to show you is, am I going to be so ignorant to say that can exist? No, guys. What you're trying to say is, it's the power of narratives. Let me end with this. Let me show you this, man, because there's a book entitled The Great Narrative. This book is a sequel to a book written called The Great Reset. And the book is by the World Economic Forum creator Klaus Schwab. It's called The Great Narrative. Now this is a very secretive book. Most people haven't read it, but it's a very interesting book because in the introduction, I want you to hear what he writes. Quote, we can predict, he says, quote, we can't predict the future. However, we can imagine it and even design it. No outcome is predetermined. As a cognitive human being, we retain the agency to shape the world the way we want it, end quote. The question is who is the we, but the other question is how do we shape it? Yeah. You want to know how he says you shape the world? Through narratives. That's what he goes on to say. You shape the world through narratives. Listen to what he says. Narratives provide the context in which the facts we observe can be interpreted, understood, and acted upon. Through narratives, they end up becoming truths. Mm-hmm. They end up becoming ideas that underpin our perceptions that shape our realities, end quote. Wow. Listen to what Klaus sums up the book by saying, quote, a new world, not a new normal, is emerging out from COVID-19, the contours of which will largely be defined by the narratives that evolve in order to inform and construct the way forward. In other words, we have a new world that's emerging, and how we reveal that new world to the people is going to be determined by the narratives that we create around it. Mm-hmm. Guys, to me, that's scary. That's scary. Because the whole thing of this is, and I was telling this to Jordan and them, which is kind of interesting, the reason why narratives are so powerful is because it's how the brain works. It's just how the brain works, guys. This is when you study out the mind, guys. Look at this. A scientific study called The Theory of Narrative Thought was released in 2016, which definitively proved that we process narratives. Listen to this. You process a narrative, Nancy, in the same way you process firsthand experiences. Get this. The study showed that within the human brain, most of the same regions in the brain are stimulated when someone performs an action as when a person reads and hears a narrative about an action. So in other words, your brain is stimulated the same way if you do it. Like if I'm hitting this, my brain is being stimulated because I'm hitting it. Y'all get it? But if I tell a narrative of someone hitting the table, my brain has the same stimulation as if I'm doing it. Y'all confused? Think about how a movie can affect you. Have you ever cried off a movie? How? Think about it. I mean, Clark Gable, or what's the Sound of Music, or The Notebook, or some of these movies that they make, and then next thing the Color Purple, or all this kind of stuff, and then you're like, man, that was a powerful scene when she looked at him with that hand. You realize they acting. Right. You realize she never looked at him. You realize they said cut. You realize they probably filmed that scene about 50 times until they got it exactly right to get you to move your trigger. But that's the power of narratives. It can stimulate in you the action like you're actually there. That's what the study showed. It also revealed that people pay more attention to the whole rather than individual pieces. People pay attention to the whole. Listen to this. In other words, when you give people individual details about the whole, the brain will likely dissect each detail and develop counter arguments while ignoring the whole story. Now, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. If you're in a relationship, you're explaining yourself. While you explaining yourself what you're doing, Jordan, what you're doing, Rod, the whole time you're thinking of your counter argument to each detail they brought up. But here's the deal. I can't read your head, Kevin. You look like you listening. You like, in your brain, man, you performing Einstein calculations on how to shoot that down. And as soon as that person shut up, I mean, boy, they can't close their mouth before it come out like vomit. And like clockwork, what everybody's going to say is, man, you ain't heard nothing I said. Or have you ever picked out a little detail? You're talking about a whole part, and then let's say you want to reach back and use this little example over here, and now you're arguing about that, and the person, that's not what I meant. I wasn't talking about that. No, why'd you have to say that? Why we got to do that? You always have to come up. I wasn't talking about that, baby. That's not what we were talking about. Because you tried to give details. The brain doesn't operate like that, guys. What they found out is if you give the details in a coherent narrative, people will believe. An example of this is this, and I gave it to Lindsay, and then we were talking about it yesterday. Lindsay enjoyed it. I said, think about this. Very few people truly examine tech specs on an electronic item. Or specs. Y'all know what the specs are? Specifications. You know, the specs. These are the tech specs, like the dimensions, the weight, what it can do, da da da. Even though the tech specs are the truth about the item. Right. You want to know how people make their purchases? They read the description. Right. And they read the reviews that people make. Yeah. That's all narrative. Mm-hmm. Even though the description, who makes the description? The manufacturer. You think they're going to write down the bank that this is a horrible product, it'll break on you in 2 months and you'll have to get another one. That's why we believe you're so dumb you're going to buy it, we're going to get you to get another. They're not going to put that in the description. It's always this awesome, it'll never break, and and look at our testimonies we have from 5 people who love it, and then you go down and read the reviews, and you go down there. I never forget, man, I was looking for a vacation, man, and I mean, all these reviews were bad about this hotel. The distance was bad, I ain't like it. We were too far away from the thing, da da da. Come to find out, the hotel was just across the street from the beach. I'm glad I got to the hotel because I was like, all the reviews were biased because they didn't want it across the street. They wanted to be able to step out their room. I mean, literally jump from the balcony and go right to the sand. That's what they wanted. And I'm like, well, that's not really an accurate review. What I'm trying to get you to say, guys, narratives can be biased based upon the people who are giving them.
That's true.
And the only way, as we close, that you begin to protect yourself against all of these narratives is because, number one, they're going to get you to identify with what's being said. That's number one. Listen to this, guys. How do you protect yourself from false narratives? Number one, always question the motive of the source giving the narrative. What's the motive? What's the motive? Especially when you listen to the news. What is the motive of the source giving the narrative? This is what can hurt us in marriages at times. Because if you're not careful, you would think your spouse's motive is to manipulate you. That's why you won't believe what they're saying. You get it? Do y'all get that? Mm-hmm. But when you're listening to the news, when you're listening to this politician, what's the motive? Please know that when Donald Trump is giving a rally, he wants you to vote for him. He's not going to tell you the bad stuff about him. Do you think when Kamala Harris is up there, she's going to tell you, I don't know anything, I couldn't know how to run a country, man, I don't know how to do it. They're not going to tell you that. Don't be so gullible to believe. And then when you watch this news station, they're just all crazy about this individual. Come on, you got to check. Don't be gullible. Number two, always be aware of narratives that tell you to trust the experts. simply take the information on face value. We got to be careful as parents. We want to instill in our children. Now, I don't mean Jasmine coming and say, "Well, I ain't saying you do that," but you want them as they get older to be able to think on their own.
That's right. That's right.
I want you to hear what I'm saying.
Right.
This is why a good parent would be like, "Do you understand what I'm telling you?" Yeah, I do. No, you don't. No, you don't. Because when we ask you to repeat it, you say the most dumbest thing back in the most simplest form of it that Skylar would say. You didn't get it. So why did we say not to do that? Because it's wrong, and I just should have told you. What was that? You didn't understand what I just said. So we're going to try this again. Because why am I doing that? Not to be mean. I'm doing that because I want you to learn how to not just take the experts and what they say at face value. Number 3, always be aware of narratives that are solely meant to excite your emotions and get you to avoid critically thinking. Everybody that saw Megan Thee Stallion on that stage should have immediately asked themselves, why is she up here? And once she turned around and shook her booty in front of everybody's face, they should have got up and walked out and said, this is a disgrace. No, you had Megan Thee Stallion here. I bet you wouldn't have brought Megan Thee Stallion if you were doing a rally in Iowa.
Come on now. You better say that. Right.
I bet you wouldn't have brought Megan Thee Stallion out if you were doing a rally in South Dakota.
New Hampshire. Right.
Where were they?
No, you was in Atlanta. That's why you brought Megan Thee Stallion out.
Billy Porter was up. That was Juneteenth.
That was at the White House.
Yeah.
No. Don't ever do that. Don't ever get somebody to get you to quit. Songs do that. I never forget, man. I used to love Tupac, man. Oh my God. And one day I was listening to the lyrics. I said, man, one of the lyrics, he was talking about his soul was deleted. He know his destiny is hell. He know he gonna be baptized in eternal fire when he go to hell. And I was like, oh my God, these are not good lyrics. Guys, let me close with this scripture here. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9 through 12. You know it. The coming of the lawless. I think Raymond read this scripture when he did his, it was Raymond or Kevin, one of them. I know this scripture was read. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders, with all wicked deception for those who are perishing. Why? Because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false, in order that they may be condemned who did not believe the truth but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Guys, don't fall for narratives. Let's make sure we are falling for the truth. Amen? Amen. All right. That's it. That's it. Thank you guys for joining with us on Facebook. We appreciate you guys. If you heard anything that confused you, write in, let me know. If you heard anything that blessed you, you want to be a blessing to this ministry, please make sure you find us on Cash App, $EPF Church. You can be a blessing there. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page, Eternal Purpose Fellowship, Theology Today 101. And we'll see you on next Sunday online. Until then, God bless. All right, guys.